Hi everyone, it's Kathy here with another art journal project for you today. Hopefully you get some inspiration. So for this project, I'm using this book called with Wrinkles, using a few images out of there. One of them is this whole page of art supplies. So it is shelves of beautiful color. I just love it where it's all lined up like that. Don't you wish that was your art room? So this is a page about these three friends shopping in an art store, going to buy their art supplies, and they're loading up their baskets and just having fun. I love it. This one gal is actually sitting right in the basket and they're just loading their supplies right on top of her. Like they're just laughing and having a great time. And having anything to do with art is fun. Anything to do with your friends is fun. So when you can combine those two together, it's just a great time. So on here, I've torn this page out of the book and I'm just trimming off some of the top, some of the bottom, so I can just get down to where we're on the colored supplies. Trying to see how I can fit this all on my page. I am working on my handmade Concertina journal that's only 8 inches high. So the way that I have decided to fit this onto my page is to tear it. So I'll kind of have one corner on one page, one corner of that on the other page of my art journal, and that way I get to fit it all in. And I do a little bit of adjusting, extra tearing, just to get it to fit the way that I want. And here's where I finally go back and trim some of that top white piece off. I think I do. Yep. Had to make myself a straight edge for there first, off the torn edge, so that I have something to line up a straight cut across the top. And just seeing how that's going to fit onto my page, and then layer some of the other images, the images of the ladies on top of it. I have a basic idea of what I wanted to do with this page. I definitely wanted it to be them having a fun shopping trip. As the previous page I did was them peeking inside the windows of their favorite craft store. So now they're inside the store and just having a hoot. I just added some fluid matte medium to the back there, and you can see how the page curls a little bit, the paper, because you're getting it so wet, but it's not an issue. As soon as you lay it down, it's going to flatten right out. And I had just put the matte medium more in the center of the paper, not on the edges. So you'll see where I need to go back and lift up the edges and just sneak a little bit more matte medium underneath the edges so that they all stick down good. And then in the end, I decided that matte medium, even though that's what I've been using in my art journal for years, that it's not my favorite for putting down collage papers. I've decided that I'd switch over to a glue stick. And I'm finding that I quite like that. So either one of them work. Whatever you have, you can use. And just some finishing touches there to get my page to stick down. Now, this journal I'm working in, I'm hand making a Concertina journal, and I'm just making it as I go. So I put 2 pages together every time I do an art journal page. And then when I'm done that page, I adhere that onto previous pages I've done so that the book can keep growing as large as I want it to. And I'm enjoying that process. So I'm only working on loose sheets of paper to start with, and then I add it into the art journal to build it as I go. And I'll do a video of that when it's finished, so you can see what it turns out to be like. So now I need to decide how I'm going to fit these ladies on there. And my decision is I don't want them all as close together as they are in the image. So you know what? You just alter it. So I cut one gal off so that she can be a little more separated from the first two. And that means that I need to do some extra trimming just to get some of that background away. If you're a person that struggles with fussy cutting, take a look at those scissors that I have there. I know they look funny because the handles are huge and the blade of the scissor is short. But the benefit of those handles is your whole hand fits in there and nothing pinches on your fingers. So I can cut for hours, literally for hours, and my hands never get sore from cutting. They're a great set of scissors, and those are available on Amazon. There's a few different brands that make the really large handles like that where your whole hand fits in. Definitely my favorite. I have 2 or 3 pairs of those hanging out in my craft room because I never want to be without them. They happen to be titanium blades too, so I've had at least one of my pairs I bet I've had over 5 years, and I have never needed to sharpen them. They just stay sharp. So a little bit of a shout out there for the manufacturer of those scissors there. When you know a great tool, it's good to share. So then I'm taking out some paints. These are Dina Wakley paints. The turquoise is the one I'm using now. And the other one, I believe it's called Lemon. Yeah, the yellow one is going to be Lemon. Just happened to grab a couple colors that were on my desk. This page has so many colors in it that no matter what paint color you have, it's going to match and work. So the paint does go on kind of thick. I'm just spreading it with a sponge, and the more I spread it, the thinner it gets, and you can see that it even becomes a little bit translucent. So I can even go over top of the paper a little bit, and you can still see the images of the paint bottles and that right through the paint. So I really like that about it. These are just artist sponges that I'm using. I like using sponges to apply my paint. It gives you a little bit different look than if you were to use a paintbrush. And it's also good for putting your paint through stencils too. I like using the sponge. So what I did on here is while the paint was still wet, I go through the stencil with a wet baby wipe. And I'm just wiping some of that paint away. And you'll see when I lift it, it gives you a bit of a design there. So with just one layer of paint, you get your design as well. Now it looks like I'm rubbing this pretty hard, and I am, because I let the paint air dry a little bit too long. If you get onto the paint right away while it's wet, it lifts up even easier. So it's just another way to get some extra use out of your stencils. And then I'm going to add that lemon. That's a Dina Wakley paint as well, but any paints that you have are going to work in your art journal. And going in with a clean sponge and just adding that basically to all the area that didn't have paint on it already. Some of this is going to be covered up with our fun ladies, but that's okay. I want to cover the whole thing so that no matter any little area that's showing, it's going to work. And I somehow picked up a darker color paint. I don't know if that came off my glass mat or off the sponge, but you know, just go with it. When it's in your art journal, it doesn't matter. Anything, you can make it work. So I'm doing the same thing here. I'm just going through with a wet baby wipe. The yellow doesn't show up quite as dark or quite as much of a contrast, but there still is the dots there. And then I decided that to just kind of meld that all together a little bit more and possibly calm it down a little bit, I'll add white through a different stencil. The first stencil was a Tim Holtz, and this one I believe is a Dina Wakley stencil. Both of them are by Ranger anyways. But any stencil designs that you have are going to work. It's just layering some white on top of the color. And then as I'm moving my stencil across the page, I am trying to line it up so that the design somewhat continues. Adding this white helps to kind of meld it all together, and it pushes the brighter colors a little bit more into the background. And then I even go over the edges of my paper with the stencil and the white paint, but not very much. So I really want that paper to shine through. I like the designs on it. If only my art room was that organized. And that's probably enough of that one stencil. Now I'm going back with the same dots I used before to do my reductive stenciling and going through there with a little bit more color, adding some dots onto the background. So you just really, there's no rhyme or reason to it. You just keep adding until you like it. And I'm just working with the two colors and the white. I think that's enough color when we got so much color going on the rest of the page. And a couple more dots up in the corner, and that should be enough, I believe. So then my next thing is deciding where I'm going to place these ladies. I decided to have the one there on the page by herself, and then the two there with the shopping cart, having so much fun in there. And then I have decided that the ladies, the one in the orange shirt there, she just needs to be lifted off the background a little bit so she doesn't disappear into that busy painted background. A little bit too busy, I think. So I'm just attempting to create like a white halo around the area where she's going to be glued down to the page. So I keep putting her back there to see if I'm making a large enough white space so that the white just goes out a little ways from the size of that image. And I think that just helps to have her stand off the page a little bit. You can still see the color through the white because I put it through there pretty thin, but it definitely calms down that busy paint pattern and helps to just have her show up a little bit more. And there, I'll just put a little glue stick on the back of her and get her ready to attach to a project. And then I'm doing the same thing on the other page so that these shopping ladies have a little bit of a white halo around them to help them stand off the page a little bit so they don't just get lost into the background. I don't know there, I just used up the extra paint, I guess. Didn't really need to do that. And again, I'm working with the glue stick. I have definitely moved away from the matte medium on this paper and just finding the glue stick works really well. And then a couple other small images out of the book. I do cut out one of the quotes, this book called Rebels and Wrinkles. You can see a bit of the book showing there on the left side of the screen. It's got a lot of fun images with these friends that are, well, they're rebels because they kind of tend to get into a little bit of trouble. And there's lots of quotes in the books. So I've chosen one that I thought would go with this page about having fun. And I thought I would pop that quote up on foam adhesive dots to make it stand off the page a little bit. So because the paper is thin, I decided I would glue it down to a piece of cardstock first and then put the sponge dots on it. And cutting out some more little embellishing pieces that can decorate the page. Some little sale tags, just to add a little bit more to the page, a little more interest. And I do put them up on pop dots as well. I even add some eyelets to them, so it just brings them more to life, gives some dimension to the project. And having a little thought there, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Kind of, you want to use it and you design as you go. So because I've decided I want to put those up on dimensional adhesive, I'm decided I would glue them down to a piece of cardstock just to make them a little thicker and more durable. So if you know ahead of time that that's what you're going to do, I wouldn't bother cutting them out first. I would just take the little, the piece of the page that they're on and glue it right down to cardstock and then just cut them out once. But because I wasn't planning ahead, I create as I go. I just trimmed out the cardstock again. And here I'm using my crocodile tool. Punch a couple holes in those tags, add some eyelets. It just gives you another texture. You got a little metal piece on your page, another pop of color, just to add some more interest. And then I'll end up tying some twine right through the tag. So I've got a little twine on my page as well. Everything you add is just another layer of fun, right? And a little bit more time spent enjoying your project. And then I'm trying to figure out just how I'm going to lay these all out. What composition do I use to make that look all right? Decided the red flower doesn't work. It's the wrong color for on there, so I'll just stick with the pinks and the greens. And here I'm just taking my twine, fold it in half, put a little bit through that eyelet that I put on, and I'll just make a little string hanging from my tag. Just adds a little more texture and interest to the page. And it's just kind of a finishing look on that sale tag as well. Sale 50 cents. I don't know what you can get for 50 cents anymore, but it's a good look anyways. And there's where I'm going to take my quote, and so that I can put it up on foam dots, I'm just gluing it down to a piece of scrap cardstock. And again, you'll see that, creativity hits as I'm working. So I'll get another idea and then I'll change this up again. That's my method of create. Even if I have a basic idea what I'm going to do, I just get new ideas as I'm working with it and I go with it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's all in the point of having fun, right? So then I decided that same word quote, I actually wanted a black frame around it so that it would show up on the page a little bit better. So I ended up gluing that down to a piece of black cardstock, and then cut the black cardstock out so that it's a little larger than the quote, and it leaves this nice black frame, and I think that helps it to stand out. So again, if I had thought of that to start with, of having, then I wouldn't have put it on the first piece of cardstock. I'd have gone straight to the black. But that's okay. There's an extra piece underneath there, and nobody will know except you. And I thought I was going to pop that up, but I guess I'm not. I'm just going to adhere that straight down to the page. Easy way to get a quote down. And then these 3 little flowers I'm using, they're Prima flowers, and they have these great big bauble decorations in the center of them, and they're way too thick for what I want in my art journal. So I just pull those right off. And you'll see later in the project where I solve the issue and put something decorative back in there, but something that is much lower in height than these great big round, they're like gem balls in the middle of the flowers. Just too much. They'd be great on a cover, but not on an inside. And then just adding some liquid glue to the back of each of those flowers so that I can adhere those down onto my project. These are quite thin flowers, so they're not adding a lot of bulk. A little bit of bulk in the art journal I like, but not too thick. And then just deciding how I'm going to lay those out so that the colors work together. And then I'm kind of happy with that composition up there. You can't tell in the video, but the sale tag is popped up, so it's a little bit higher. So we've got a little bit of different dimensions on that area of the page. It makes it a little more interesting when you see it in person. And here I've put some of that art glitter, it's called, the brand of glue. Any glue is going to work. Put a little dauble of that on the center of each of the flowers, and now I'm taking some Prima beads. They're called micro beads, and you can get them in a variety of colors. So I'm taking some of those and just trying to get them into the center of the flower. The glue comes out white, but it will dry clear. So even though I've got quite a bit of glue there, you're not going to see it. Once it's dry, you'll just see the little micro beads. And then adding some dimension to this shopping basket. Shopping basket for this one gal. She's just having a laugh about how many fun supplies she's getting to take home. Look at all the stuff she's getting. Beautiful colors in there. No wonder they're having so much fun. And then I had cut out a couple of these little paint tubes, but I think in the end I decided not to use those. So I'll save them for another page. And I think that pretty much concludes the project. Now here's where I'm adding this page into this Concertina art journal that I'm building as I go. So when I create a page, when I'm done with it, I add it to the last page. And that way my art journal can grow to whatever size I want it to be. So I'm just using this double-sided, it's Sukwang tape. Some people know it as red tape, or it's got a few different names to it, but it's very strong. Once you put it on, it's not going to come apart again. So I'm just taking the last project there and adding this one to it. And there is a video on that last page as well. So if you check on the channel, you'll be able to see. And that's how the book goes together. It just folds together kind of like a Z or a Z. That's the first page, and here's the page we just did. And there's a closer up of it. These fun ladies. And this book is available worldwide on Amazon. Simply search for Rebels with Wrinkles on your local Amazon. And enjoy.